Yes.
Recording in progress.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is a work session of the Greenbelt City Council. My name is Emmett Jordan. I'm the mayor. Council, would you introduce yourselves, please?
Kristen Weaver, Mayor Pro Tem.
Sylvie Pope, Council.
Danielle McKinney, council member.
Jenny Poppy,
Council member.
Amy Niesel, Council member.
Rodney Roberts, City Council.
Well, fantastic. Let's see. We have the city manager. You said you have a couple of information items. Council, do you have any information items to share at the end of the meeting? You got one? Okay. Well, very good, very good. So, we hold these work sessions on Mondays and Wednesdays several times a month to discuss, exchange information with community stakeholder groups or to gather information from staff, like tonight. Advisory boards or residents, no votes or formal actions are taken at work sessions. Our work sessions are open to the public as well as meetings, except for executive sessions as authorized by state law, so that residents and others can observe our deliberations. We do strive to provide reasonable opportunities for the public to voice opinions on matters being considered, and we'll pause periodically for public comment. This is a budget work session. We have a lot to cover. As opposed to going back and forth, we're going to pause maybe every 20, 30 minutes or at logical points in the presentation to take questions from the public. So we do strive to provide reasonable opportunities for the public to voice opinions. So if you are in the room during the times when we pause, if you raise your hand after being recognized, you can go to the podium. You need to state your name and where you live. We need that for the minutes. If you are watching on Zoom or participating on Zoom, you can submit a written question using the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, or you can also raise your virtual hand. And once again, after being recognized, you would need to just provide your name and where you live. With the Q&A tab, we do not accept anonymous comments, so you need to write your name in there, the Q&A tab. And if you are watching on cable TV, if you are watching on Facebook, I believe we Zoom on Facebook and YouTube. We stream. You can submit a question to us using email. The email address is questions@greenbeltnb.gov. So the public comments, 3 minutes, and speak on one topic related to the question under consideration. We ask that you avoid questioning the motives of others. In general, let's all be civil in our remarks. So today is the first day, our first session actually reviewing the city manager's budget. He provided us with, he presented the budget on Monday. So it's been a little more than 48 hours since council had a chance to look at this for the first time in the public. And we are meticulous in trying to provide transparency in what's been decided, what's being proposed in this budget. It's a proposed budget until it's approved by council. So we'll be having roughly nine work sessions on each session. Each section will be going over this budget proposal. As we found out on Monday, the overall budget, $52.53 million. It's about 40 in general fund, about 7.5 in capital projects, and another 5 million or so in other funds. It's a challenging time for the state of Maryland, for Prince George's County, and for Greenbelt. We've traditionally been very, very conservative in the way that we forecast, and this year is no different. But, there's some structural factors, and listening to the deliberations in Annapolis over the state budget, they're trying to close a gap, and there's just these structural issues that make it really, really hard to come up with a balanced budget. So my compliments and council's compliments go to Mr. Salmarone for presenting us with a balanced budget. But the budget, it's really about people. And the fact that, we've got the cost of living and merit increases built in. That's sort of the same problem, that the challenge that the state is facing. It's trying to kind of deal with these structural issues in a way that is will help in the long run. So the city manager has been and city staff has been very, very thoughtful in the information that we've put forward, that they've put forward for our consideration. We do have a lot to cover. As we advertised the meeting, specifically, several sections were outlined with page numbers, but we didn't really, advertise the fact that we would be going over the general fund and the overview. And I'm assuming that we probably are going to do that, although that's not what was advertised. What is council's will? Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your kind words about the difficulty of balancing the budget. So if I may, I would like to get started on some of those things, and then we can transition into what we'll cover, because we advertise general government and we're planning to discuss general government and the things that are in the memo. But first, let me start off with thanking you for the opportunity to present this budget. While the city charter is very clear on the responsibility of the city manager to submit the budget, I want to emphasize that this budget is operationalization of council's vision for services to our residents. As the city manager, I see this process as a partnership between the city manager's office, our city team, council, and the residents, because the residents are the ones who make this possible through their property tax payments, income tax payments, all the things that they provide for us to do this work. So this is not just spreadsheets, but it's a policy document, a strategic plan, and a commitment to our residents and staff. Do you want to jump in on what we're discussing, or may I continue to present the team?
As you've said, it's a map, and it's your best and our best estimate of what's going to happen, what the department heads have said is possible. So once it's approved, it's a flexible piece somewhat, but this is our pathway. This is our map to 2026, and it's always important to remember it's a budget. It's not just a budget, but it's the map of how we are planning to get to where we need to go.
So before we jump into on the specific outline of what we discussed, I want to recognize the team that's here. Join with me here at the table is our city treasurer, Ms. Brefa Gaiman, our deputy city clerk, Shania. In the audience, we have in the audience seating, we have our economic development manager, John Mason, our acting IT director, Brian Kennel, our grants coordinator, Carrie Ewer, our DI officer, Tyra Smith, Chandra Andrews, our PIO officer, our director of human resources, Dewey Martinez, our constituent service coordinator, Giselle Alvarez, and assistant city manager, Tim George.
I was gonna say, who's that guy over there? It's Tim George.
He's got more gray hair every day now.
Thank you, Mr. George. Yeah.
All right, so what we plan to discuss tonight is the revenues, general government, and other funds, which include miscellaneous funds. In your email, you have made reference to grants and contributions. We're able to jump in on those. We have a designed in response to the questions that you submitted today and yesterday. We're proposing the following outline: that we start with council presentation, then go into the administrative services, which include my office, the various offices that report to me, such as constituent services, elections, legal, municipal building, the Greenbelt Armory, and then move on to the operation and support services, which is the back office operation, includes finance, human resources, information technology, then with public information and community promotion, and then economic development. We'll leave that last as is forward-looking. Then we have obviously the other departments that we advertise, which are the non-departmental, the fund transfers, and the replacement funds.
It sounds like a plan. Let's dive right in.
Okay, well, let's jump right in. All right, on the budget overview, our revenues, we are seeing some growth in our revenues in property taxes. However, they have not been consistent as in previous years where we had greater growth in our property taxes. This formula that we use to estimate those revenues really don't come from us as a team. We get that from the county, and the county gets that from SDAT. And Mayor, you and I were advocating with the acting county executive because we urgently needed those numbers, and we were at the end of February and we hadn't gotten them from the state, and we were asking the county to help us get those numbers. And we did in time, and the projection looked a little better than what we initially were informed of at the end of last year. So that's an improvement in our financial condition. However, to Councilmember Pompey's remarks previously, in a time of uncertainty, it means more property taxes for our residents. And that is we are acutely aware of the challenges given the tax rate that we have in comparison to our community. Sorry, to surrounding municipalities.
Tax rate remains, the proposal is for it to remain stable at 0.827.
Correct. We are not proposing a change to our tax rate. So that tax rate has remained the same for 7 years now, and that's at 0.8275. So we're not proposing any increases. Many of our residents are seeing increases because the assessed value of their properties is going up, and that's something that we don't have any control over. That the county assesses properties on a 3-year cycle, and most of our properties were reassessed this year. So we're seeing year two of a 3-year cycle.
So all the property in Greenbelt has been reassessed at this point, and we're in the second year.
So it's the first year of a 3-year cycle.
Oh, I got my notice.
I got my notice from GHI as well.
Okay. Let's see now. If someone's following along at home and they've downloaded the budget, which page will we be starting on?
We are starting on page 97.
Okay.
So do you want to cover Rennie's or just jump in? We'll start off with City Council as that's the first budget, as that is the first budget in the packet. Now I want to make a note here. As we were doing all the budget cuts, Ms. Gaiman, since this was the first spreadsheet in this section, cut a lot of the budget out as revenues got better. I reminded Ms. Gaiman she was retiring and going to be spending a lot of her time in the beach, but I will remain here. So we restored a lot of that funding to council as a result. So
Let's see.
that's all she was doing. She was trying to close the gap. So the funding, the budget for council has been restored. So no notable changes.
Do you want, should we pause now? Mr. Roberts has a question. Is this sort of, as we start off, just a general question? Go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question. I just have a kind of want to rebut what the city manager just said, that we don't have anything to do with the tax increase that people are getting. Because we do, because we can reset our tax rate at a lower rate and make up for that so that people don't continue to get a tax increase. That's what, our system was designed to be able to do that, but we're not doing that. We've never done it. So I just want to let people know that we do have something to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for that reminder. And I was specifically talking about how the formula of assessing values works at the county. That's the city doesn't partake in the assessment of the property taxes. But yes, Mr. Roberts, you're correct. The council can at any point adjust its tax rates with proper notice and discussion. So on the council budget, no notable changes. Any changes that we are factoring in there have been primarily to address cost changes that we don't have control over, such as insurance, for example. This is our general liability insurance. There's a portion of the insurance cost they get assessed across the various budgets. Likewise, for the Public Officers Association, these are memberships, participation in different organizations that city and council member participate on. So we've loaded those costs in there. There are no notable changes in that budget. Any question on the council? I would like to make a note that previously in the professional service line 30, our current our budget comment says that we reduced cost for legislative liaison from 30 to 12. Once we were able to put that cost reduction back into the budget, we did. So we will make that adjustment to the budget comment because we restore that function. Clearly, the legislative liaison role has been an important aspect of the success that we've had getting our policy concerns and priorities before the county delegation and the state delegation. Just evidenced by today, one of our sponsored activities made it was voted in the Senate, and it's expected to succeed. And that specifically is the legislation asking for the city to have a greater role on land use authority. That has now while that bill that we supported is not being voted in its original form, there is a task force that is being created to look at the land use authority issues and provide a recommendation to the county executive, and the state delegation for follow-up.
Exactly. We talked about that a bit in the Maryland Municipal League Legislative Committee this morning. So that bill is moving forward. It hasn't been approved, but it's moving forward. It's looking pretty good. The exact composition of that task force hasn't been determined, specifically how many or who from municipalities would be serving on that task force.
And that is just one of many examples of where having the legislative liaison work is helping advance the interest of the city.
You know, we put that line item, it's under council, wave that it's actually been working, and it's been working very, very well. Well, it's been working well. So the liaison is working very, very closely with staff. I believe you guys are meeting with the liaison on every week, every 2 weeks, more or less.
We have regular communication with Mr. Carrington via email, phone, in terms of in-person check-in. I believe we're doing that once a month, Tim, but we're having regular check-in with Daryl. We saw him this week. You saw him just two days ago. So we're not concerned about the level of engagement there that we're having.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Any questions on the Council and Public Officers Association budget?
It's on page 97, 98.
Okay, excellent. Now moving on to the Administration Clerk, DEI and Grants Program. There are no notable changes in any of these budgets. We're trying to maintain the same level of operations the Council expects from us. So from a budget perspective, a lot of the increases are related to the personnel wage increases. That is a 2% COLA and 3% merit that we budgeted in our budget. Okay, now we'll get into some meaty items. That is the support services that covers the election budget, legal, municipal building, in the Greenbelt Armory. On the elections, as you know, November 4th of this year is Election Day. November 4th. It is the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. So that puts us on November 4th. So because this is an election year, you now see a budget for the election office. So those funds are loaded there. A lot of that is driven by historical numbers. However, we are adding additional funding to the budget to support additional voter engagement activities. The council had requested that we translate voter registration form and letters and mailers. So the budget includes the finances to support those activities. It also includes support for staffing to support voter registration activities as authorized by council.
Right. I did have a question just about, our not all resident voting, or, we're changing significantly this year. So on the administrative side and just in terms of outreach, you've mentioned a couple of outreach activities, but are we actually setting aside some funding for additional staffing to handle?
Yes, that's correct. I was being discreet in my description of the expense so that staffing is to support voter registration for the non-citizen voting initiative that council approved and is overwhelmingly supported by our residents via the advisory question that was put before the electorate.
It's administrative support, just in terms of, as people come in, being able to, so we'd be hiring temporary help or something?
Correct, yes, we will hire temporary staff to do outreach, to do administrative work, manage the registration process and the voter roll for the non-citizen voting initiative. That the funding also supports outreach activities for the non-citizen voting. Overall, I'm labeling this as voter engagement because council has designated what is an eligible voter in the city, and obviously we need to inform the public of election, when is election, what's the election process, how to register to vote in the election, and just general outreach. So we're considering this. Obviously, council has made a commitment to the non-citizen voting. We are considering this as just an expansion of our voter engagement activities to inform people of when the election is, how to vote, and how to participate.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, and I think that's an important point because I think we recognize that there is overall low voter participation in municipal elections, that we have a lot of people registered in Greenbelt that vote in gubernatorial or presidential years but don't vote in the municipal elections. So I think spending some time and effort and, yes, money on reaching out to people who may already be registered but are not engaged in the municipal elections, I think that would be great because I think we usually have, under 20% turnout overall, which is really kind of sad so I think that it would be good to track to see if some of those resources and putting some more resources into voter engagement, broadly speaking, can maybe increase some of our turnout, which is kind of, unfortunately not unheard of. It's not that dissimilar from other municipalities, but it still is sort of sadly low. Question I had, and I hadn't noticed this when I was looking at it before, we have the notices and publications, which we didn't actually have in the last, so that's $8,000, where we didn't have that noted in the last, or I guess it was just a lot less in the last election year. What are the increases in that for the notices and publications? Is that mailings primarily?
Yes, that's correct. Mailings, outreach expenses for elections. Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to go to a point that you made about voter engagement. I met with the Board of Elections chair yesterday to briefly review the budget and discuss. I'm sorry. And discuss the elections budget and our voter engagement. And he made an observation that during the gubernatorial and presidential election, we have over 60% voter engagement, while in the city elections, we have 17%.
Right.
So it is a significant difference. So we know the voters are out there.
Right. They're registered.
Right.
They're just not aware, not feeling motivated. I don't know. I think to turn out in the municipal elections, which, yeah.
Hey, but I will point out that is better than most other municipalities in Prince George's County around the state. There's always more we can do. Do you think Voter Dude will be coming back? Voter Dude, yeah. It's a video.
I don't know this.
You don't remember that? Okay.
To answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem, yes, the office expenses in 2024 were $10,047, and that is a significant increase from prior years. So we're adjusting for that change.
And I also suspect that some of that office expenses captures some of the notices.
The notices and
Yes,
publications.
yeah.
So
I
maybe
can
the
I can
combined.
look it up and break it out.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine, I think. Yeah.
As you see in page 130, that 20,000 in temporary service.
Yeah.
I would like to see Voter Dude come back. He's still around.
Voter dude, okay, I have to. Will. Okay, legal services, the reductions are primarily due to having negotiated the collective bargaining agreement, so we have completed that task. So that's an expense that's not gonna carry into 2026. We still are leaving allowances for the maglev and other legal services, but it is a reduction from the current year's budget of 185. We're down to $110,000.
Legal services it's gone up a little bit. Is that to for the task force, the charter review task force?
Some of those expenses were part of the 2024 budget. We encumber the legal services for the recodification and charter review. So some of that expense is already allocated to Mr. Deloche's firm for legal support services. Overall, we have an allowance of 80,000 for general legal services. I anticipate having to use more of our solicitor services because we are picking up in our legislative activities. So, for example, just this week, council introduced for first reading 3 pieces of legislation: the codification of General Order 675, the stop sign cameras, and there are other activities that council has indicated that they want to consider for legislation. So local rent stabilization, just to name one. But I anticipate that how active council has been just this current calendar year, anticipate needing more legal support from our solicitor.
And that relationship has been pretty good. So would we be getting direct services from Mr. Deloche, or would other individuals from the firm, paralegals and whatnot, be helping us?
Primarily, Mr. Deloche and Mr. Pounds, right? So it depends on what the need is. A lot of the administrative law pieces, we are reaching out to Mr. Pounds, particularly the armory. As we were working on the deed, Mr. Pounds led that work, so the work was directly with him. Or Mr. Deloche is available for obviously anything the city needs. It'll depend on what specific legal assistance we need. We'll determine who in the administration, who in the firm to seek out to. But we also want to consider other firms as well. I anticipate that we're going to see land issues come up in the remainder of the calendar year and possibly next year, and we want to tap into firms that specialize in zoning and land use issues.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I assume this includes our ongoing costs for our lawsuit against the county with regards to the fire department as well.
Correct, yes. Hence the general legal services. The only thing that we're carving out from legal services is the work on maglev. All right, on the municipal building, we're reducing the expenses by 44,000. What's included in the municipal building is primarily maintenance of the building and upkeep. Mr. Mayor, you had asked about the nice furniture.
These fancy chairs in here.
Yes.
Beautiful carpet.
Well, those were not funded from this budget. They were funded from ARPA funds last year. So that's the carpet upgrades and various other things we invested. The chairs have been a welcome addition, as many of you who are here for the Train the Trainer and other events that we're having. The new design of the tables and chairs can accommodate a much larger crowd in this space. And
what does everybody think of the chairs? Are they okay?
We've got one thumbs down, unfortunately. They don't have any padding, that's true.
Oh, well.
Maybe we can get some cushions. We could get a stack of cushions.
I'll look at the cushions. One of the things my dream was to get the mesh chairs because they allow a little bit more comfort than the hard surface, but the cost was significantly higher. I mean, in the multiple times more.
But the tables are a big improvement, and the fact that they're modular means that we can adapt to, a work session like this or setting up classroom styles. That's really very helpful. And
The armory expenses are just maintenance and utilities and light maintenance. We're talking about if there's artwork that goes on the walls, it is power washing that artwork or other things that happen at the armory. And by artwork, I'm being a bit kind with the.
Have we noticed any, I mean, we know that there was a great deal of damage done before we got control of the building. Have we noticed any issues since we got control? I know we've installed some cameras and things. Has there been any issues we've had to deal with?
Not anything of vandalism. The issue we were getting billed for the water service, and we just cut that off. But there hasn't been anything breaking. But as you know, what happens with an abandoned building is the longer it sits, the more issues that come with it.
Right, and I guess the roof is probably still leaking and all that sort of thing.
The team was going to look to put some tarp and plastic material over the perforations on the roof, just as a preventative measure. So I expect that was done.
Councilmember McKinney.
Are there any other costs needed to better secure that building? More than the cameras, I don't, because we don't want to.
The most significant thing that we can do to prevent vandalism of the property is to have activity ongoing at the site. So with Public Works, we discussed having regular checking, having materials out there that are not going to be attractive to theft or other issues, but just having more activity there. One of the reasons I welcome the composting activities, because it would ensure that there's activity at the site, and that would discourage folks from hanging out. And if they do, because we're going to have regular check-in, we'll be able to have some sort of early detection.
With Mr. Roberts, please go ahead.
Well, I think, rather than spending our money on cameras, we could have spent that money on fixing the roof and fixing any water that may be coming into the building, because that's what you really need to do if you want to, have a good building. You have to stop the water. So I hope we're doing more than putting a couple tarps over. I hope we're fixing the leaks on the roof, because that's what we need to do.
I'm not sure the Zoom has sound. We've got a comment on there. The council room is labeled as muted on the Zoom. We just had someone comment.
Okay, we'll work that out. So with the composting proposal,
That looks,
Done? Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
we did have that discussion on possible use of the parking lot, the fenced-in area, as a location short-term to do composting. So are they going to come back to us with a formal request, or did we actually, that didn't come up in a meeting?
Correct. The team has submitted the formal request on the updated presentation. It's been a matter of timing and adding it to the council agenda. I had thought about adding it to Monday's meeting, but Monday's meeting was already a lengthy meeting. But we have the request formally. It's just a matter of putting it on the agenda. So it sounds like you would be interested in seeing that at the next meeting.
Soon, yeah. And as far as the security piece, with the construction going on, the site preparation next door for the development there, I think that opens things up. Perhaps that'll have a positive, good influence on just having more activity and better visibility over by the Army. Councilmember Pope.
Composting with it.
The proposal, we haven't brought it to the council yet. So what you're seeing out there, that's work that our team is doing. That's Public Works. If you're talking about the mulch that's out there and the equipment, that's ours. That's not the compost program. Mm-hmm. And whatever goes on there will be at the direction of council. So if we're expanding our compost program, we welcome council's direction on if you're wanting to have a time frame on that.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, but as the liaison to Green Aces, based on the conversations in Green Aces, the idea is that once a decision is made about the ultimate disposition of the armory, then yeah, that would probably, that canvas might likely have to move to somewhere else, or we'd have to see if it would fit into what it is proposed for the armory. So it is, I think there is an understanding from Green Aces, at least, that is intended to be using the space now, and then if it's not compatible with the ultimate use of the armory. But I think there's also recognition that it's going to be a number of years before we can complete anything at the armory.
Thank you.
The Armory is going to need a lot of work with, Mr. George and I just received the cost to remediate the facility, and we'll send those reports to council. But just to avoid sticker shock when you get the reports, we're looking at a $13 million remediation plan. We also requested what will be the cost of demolition, and that number was provided to us. And Tim,
It was just over $1 million to take it down.
so those will be items that council will have to consider as we weigh the options for the facility.
I'll be looking forward to seeing the consultants' recommendations on that. I think a lot of people, the public, is interested in exactly what's going to happen at the site.
Yes, and we're ready to bring that to council. It's really now a matter of how do we get it on the agenda. I have received the proposed schedule from the consultant to do the public engagement as council have requested with the concepts. Those are the charrettes and the various items that are part of the proposal from the design team.
Okay, one step at a time then. Let's keep moving.
One more question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Just wondering, did you get an estimate on how much it would cost to build a building that size and that scope of a building?
We have in the contract with the team, there's cost estimating for the 3 concepts that are going to be proposed. The 3 concepts have not been finalized, so hence we don't have a cost on what it will cost to build a facility there. Once we get direction from council on what the 3 concepts will be for the site, the design team will begin that work of estimating its construction cost.
Well, I think that the cost of building a building should be factored into whether you want to tear down a building. Because otherwise, you're not being honest with the public. Because you're going to say, oh, it costs this much to fix a building, we're going to tear it down, then we're going to spend 3 times more to build another one. So personally, I like that building. It's a good building. It was built well. I mean, the storage space in there is second to none. You just can't get anything better than that. But, and I just don't believe in tearing down a good building. I think it's a waste of resources and the environment and everything else. But if we're not going to take that into consideration, you're just going to come up with ideas of tearing down the building. I don't think that's really fair to us, to the taxpayers in Greenbelt.
Well, I look forward to hearing from the consultants.
I think the taxpayer, the public should have a say. We shouldn't just be presented with, okay, here's your 3 options that the staff came up with. If we're going to have options, it should be options that the public.
That's part of the process, Mr. Roberts.
Yes, Mr. Roberts, the decision, the 3.
It's a little backwards.
The 3 recommendations that council will get, those are not staff recommendations. We put together the RFP per council's direction to get 3 concepts back to council, and council is going to vet the options. We're providing information as council has requested. Council is the decision maker in this process. We're facilitating the information. So the information that you can expect from us is we're going to do our work as council has directed us to. What does it cost to remediate? What does it cost to demo the property? What is it going to cost to build 3 concepts? And the concepts are going to be vetted and approved by council. And once you have those, we will get you the pricing for these 3 items, and it's council's decision. What do you choose to do? Do you want to remediate the building to its existing conditions? Do you want to demo or build one of the 3 concepts? That is not a decision that staff is making. That is a decision of council.
So appreciate hearing from the consultants at some point in the future once we get through this budget. Oh, yes,
Just to Mr. Roberts' question, the engagement has 4 public meetings. We're having one initial public meeting where the consultant is going to update the public on what they've learned to date. And then there's 3 different subsequent meetings about setting up plans and we're going to break out groups with folks. We're going to go through all the sessions. So the public is going to weigh in on the 2 concepts that were in the RFP, and then a 3rd concept that's to be determined, and that will come from the public, from the residents. It could come from any number of sources. So the 3rd option really is whatever the residents would like to talk about. But all of those options will go through four different meetings, and as the city manager said, and then the consultant will price out all of those options, and then you will have your demo price, your rehab price, and your 3 options. So having a very rigorous public process. They're already involved in a survey right now that we've put out to the residents. It's been in the news review, trying to get folks to engage on this. So having resident input is extremely important to this process, and it will definitely be taken into account when the consultant builds their recommendations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's keep moving.
All right, excellent. Now we'll go into the operational and support services, which are also known as the back office operations. So Ms. Gaiman.
Right, I'll talk about the 3 departments that support the entire organization: finance, HR, and IT. Finance's budget is on page 118, and our budget increased by a whopping $600. And that's really because we actually reduced our budget by $30,800 as a result of eliminating the old accounting system. We carried it last year for a half year, and so we're not carrying it this year, so we reduced it down. So it really absorbed the cost of the increase in salaries. But I just thought I would say $600 because it's finance. So okay, human resources increased by $89,000. And most of that increase is due to the new human resources information system called Paycor. It has been implemented right now, and it is working wonders. When it's up and running, it's going to provide a lot of information that we do not currently have and do not currently track. So I think it's a great investment. I want to point out the fact that the initial amount was covered with ARPA dollars. And so the HR budget covers 7 months of payments in 26. So that's what you see in that increase. And that budget is on page 121. Information technology on page 124 increased by $17,600. And most of that increase is based on salary. But I will say that this budget also was reduced last year because computer expenses of $104,700 was decreased to $21,500. Those expenses were and will be absorbed by ARPA dollars in 25 and in 26. And so that significant decrease helped to absorb a lot of the salary costs for IT. So their budget increased by only $17,600. So with that, where do we go?
Questions?
Any questions? Yeah.
Someone.
I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate the effort that the Human Resources Department went through this year to update their systems. I know it's not cheap to do that, but it's so important to have like secure, a secure method in which that we're sort of keeping track of that very precious data of our employees. So I think that was just a smart investment, and I'm glad to see that we are in this century and that we're doing that. It's important for our employees. So it's great to see it.
We think so too. Thank you.
Just a couple of things. The overtime in the finance department, I'm thinking that's probably related to ARPA.
It is, yes, and we actually have.
Clients, all
Yes,
of the hoops
yeah.
that we've needed that we've jumped through successfully and will continue to have to do. Right. To Mr. Summerone, so I like the management objectives. I think some of them could be quantified a little bit more, just in terms of making them so they're time bound. When it says implement or there's an action involved. If it's going to happen this year, let's go ahead and put it in there. So-
I agree, Mr. Mayor, and I would like to schedule a meeting with council so that we revisit the council planning framework and the council goals. Because one of the things we want to, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, that this is a partnership. So we want our work to be aligned with council's goals so that we're all on the same page about how we're delivering services for our resident.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, so the next section is public information and community promotion. So I invite Chandra Andrews, our PIO officer, to join us.
Testing. All right. Good evening, council. For the record, my name is Chandra Andrews. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Greenbelt. Glad to be before you tonight to discuss the Public Information and Community Promotion Department. As you all know, we handle all the internal and external communications for the City of Greenbelt. We also run the council meetings and are responsible for our lovely hybrid access, and I do have, and the microphones. So I have some good news. Our vendor will be here Thursday with our microphone updates. So I'm excited about that. We'll have microphones on the dais that won't be moved. They'll be permanently locked in. And then for our work sessions, we'll have wireless. So they're easier to move, and we don't have this problem with wires showing during our council meeting. So I'm excited about that.
I would like to add to that. What I'm excited about, that we'll get this work done, not with 120,000 as we had discussed previously, but Chandra, you want to say how much?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's less than
Yes.
$10,000. Yeah, it's less than $10,000. We'll be able to add a second set of microphones in the room that would be wireless.
So I'm excited about that. And also, according to our budget, it's about, I believe it's a $36,000 increase for our department. And on the PowerPoint slides, you can see where the increases are for line 34, $10,000 for interpreting services, studio equipment maintenance, website, and also studio maintenance. From time to time, we have issues in the back, and so we have to have a vendor come out and help troubleshoot. So that's at a cost to the city, but it's rare, but it does happen. Line 37, of course, an increase with the Greenbelt News Review ads, production for the City Connector, and that includes the printing, and they also sort for us and deliver them to our local post office for us. And of course, increasing postage. It goes up every year, no, every other year.
Postage right now. So we send things out bulk third class?
Yes, so for our last City Connector, it was about around $2,700 to send to all the residents in Greenbelt.
It's not so much.
Line 45, it's an increase of $7,000, a little bit over $7,500 for our memberships to national organizations, subscription costs, for Hootsuite, which we use for our social media, where we schedule our posts, and also that's how we get our analytics for everything that we send out from the city, project management software, and we also pay for the domain for Engage Greenbelt and also greenbeltmd.gov. We have to keep paying that, because if we don't, we'll lose that domain. So that's very important. Line 58, an increase for $11,000 to support city events. That goes for the advisory board dinner, city staff recognition, our lovely holiday party that we had, and also employee events. So
The two main cost drivers in that line item are the holiday party and the advisory board dinner. And that line item totals $32,500.
Councilmember McKinney.
Questions. Where does the money that goes to the company that's developing the website, where would that be shown in this budget?
ARPA,
Okay.
yes.
All right. And then my second question is, when it comes to the connector, is there an option for the public to elect whether or not they want to receive the connector digitally or in print? You know, I don't know if there's that option, if there's any way to do that. I'm just thinking of like cost savings, like if people could elect to actually receive it, a digital copy.
That would be something I would look into. I think it's just like a generic, whoever's in 20770 that has a mailbox, and they just put it in, just like all the other, not junk mail, but bulk mail is delivered.
Yeah, that's interesting. It might be more costly to have someone pull those people that have opted out of the mailing than doing the mailing itself. But as far as it going to everybody in 20770, do we do it that way, or do we actually exclude the communities that are not formally in incorporated Greenbelt from those mailings?
I believe it's just a generic blanket of 20770.
I have a couple of other suggestions, but go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, just a question, because I know it has come up, the MOU with Gate and the filming of things that they do. Does that appear, and I haven't read the recognition group or so where some of that other stuff is yet, but does that appear here in the public information budget, or is that somewhere else?
It's in special projects.
Special
budget,
projects,
yes.
okay.
Fund 101.
Okay, I haven't read that part of the
Okay,
budget yet.
It's way at the back.
Okay.
Go ahead. Well, I just wanted to share that the latest Prince George's tourism guide is out. They only sent me a few copies, but I requested a copy for each one of you. And once I get it, I'll place it in your mailbox. But when you get it, you open up and you'll see our ad on the front cover.
Oh, look at
So
that.
I'm very excited about that.
Man.
Very fancy.
So we're getting out there
I like
across the
it.
world, across the nation.
Okay. Hey, I just had a couple of suggestions, or just with the management objectives. So with the website design, I am so pleased that is moving forward. But is that going to be finished? If the goal is to just get it out of the way, that's going to happen this year. So let's put that in the date in there.
We are diligently working with their team. Actually, this week we hand over our website over to Civic Plus to start migrating information over into the new website. For the past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been working with the different departments, combing through the website, getting rid of things that are unnecessary, just to make things a little bit easier for our residents to find things and easier for the migration as well. So Friday is the day, and I'm excited about that.
That's really sounds like it's going to actually happen this year and not next year.
Yes, June 30th is the anticipated date or sooner. So I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like.
Really excited. Unnecessary things, you can pull my picture out of there. Nobody really needs to see that. And just one more thing, we were talking about rebranding, or kind of, you talked about unifying, making sure that style guides and everything is unified. Are you thinking in the next year about maybe doing some rebranding or kind of tweaking how we present ourselves?
I will definitely put that on my list of things for next year.
But we have done some of that work, Mr. Mayor. Chandra has been convening the team members across departments that are part of the promotional activities for the city and hosted a lunch and learn on the style guide to get everyone on the same page. And we've talked through some of the branding. We've also incorporated feedback that we receive from council members regarding our brand. So, and particularly the postings that we do on social media and the website, that there's some consistency. So I hope that you have seen those improvements.
Looked really good. The last few ones I've seen, the town halls have looked really great, I thought in particular. Looks really.
We're also doing more promoting our work. So such as the lights that we replaced at Braden Field, the basketball courts, the flowers that we're planting. We're doing more of that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Let's keep going.
We're about an hour in. Do we want to stop for the public comment?
I suppose we could. Is there anybody online?
No. No one under the raised hand.
Okay. Let's
See, I see Mr. Orleans actually had his hand up first. Actually, I would prefer you not do that, but if you'd like to speak on the subject that we're considering, that's fine.
That's exactly what I'm doing, Mr. Mayor. I'm Thank you, Mr. Bill, for your question. The significant cuts that I've referenced at Monday's meeting were council had asked to have more information about what cuts we made across the organization and look towards restoring those funds as funds became available. So we specifically called out the cuts that we made in the recreations department. So the notices that we reduced the cost of advertising for the various events that recreations has. So those are we made that cut in that department. Part of that, what led to having to make those cuts in the department is when we were looking to close the deficit, we issued guidance to all the departments to look at their budgets, collaboratively look at what reductions we could make, and we wanted the reductions to be as equitable across the organization based on the sizes of those departments. Recreation is our second largest budget in the organization. So we had set some goals of what level of reductions we wanted to see in those budget based on the overall proportion of the budget, and we want to limit the impact to our residents. Recreation, unlike the other departments, the police department, public works, did not have vacancies. So they didn't have much to offer in terms of cut because they're filled. There's one vacancy available, and as you can see from our budget we presented Monday, that vacancy will remain vacant for about 3/4 of the year. So that is the condition of the department, that there were no vacancies to offer up, and so we had to work on those cuts, and we've been transparent with the public and council about what those impacts of those cuts are. So as we work through the budget for the next couple of weeks, we're looking at restoring those activities if the funding allows.
Thank you for restating the question more or less. There's a comment online that they could not hear.
I think the
Mr.
podium,
Davis.
I think it's the podium mic that, so we might need to check on the podium mic.
Let's see, Ms. Davis?
We consulted with various members of the team, and one of the requests were for chairs to have armrests because they help in and out of the chair.
Jay Davis, Greenbelt East, and in response to putting cushions on the chairs, beware, people could throw the cushions if they get angry, and you don't.
Fine with it.
Just rather the cushion than the chair.
But no chair throwing, no throwing of anything.
Reference was made to the fact that some council people have already sent in questions. I did not have time to send in questions. I don't even know where to send the questions if I have questions. But if there are questions and there are answers, where are they going to be posted so that the public can see them? Because they're not here, so we don't know what they are.
Yes, correct. We will as we did last year, at the conclusion of a work session, we upload the materials, any changes and questions raised at that.
But where?
We're gonna post them online. So Shonda, do you want to jump in where we post these?
We'll post it in the finance portion of the website.
Okay, because some people are technologically inhibited perhaps, and I just don't want to waste a lot of time trying to find them.
You could also email me, Ms. Davis, and
Okay.
I'll get them to you.
On Monday, and I may have misheard this, I thought one of the main things that you said was that money was taken out of training, which kind of caused me to think, oh, usually we're very careful about training. But in every single line item that I've seen, it's gone up. So even where it says it remains the same, like on page 134, it said training remains the same, it actually went up. So somewhere along the line, what is the truth? Are you increasing training costs or revenue, or not revenue, but cost for training?
The material that I presented Monday, the training reductions were specific to the recreations department. But you're correct. In the budget that you're seeing tonight for administration and public information, training dollars have increased.
Right. Because I know that council in the past has been very careful to be sure that there is funds there for adequate training, because that's one of the best things that we can do for our employees and for staff, or for even council, is to be able to go and get training. On page 105, I did suggest last year underneath performance measures, because it is something that could be gathered and measured, is petitions received and resolved. It is a major part of our meetings, and it would be nice that the public would know that you received 50 petitions during the year and you resolved 49 of them. So that would be something, and unfortunately it was not put into the book. On page 113, I had a question. There's nothing there for program open space. Is that because we have not received program open space, or we're not going to get program open space?
We have received program open space, and those funds are being represented for 2024. For the 2026, we are planning, we anticipate applying for those funds.
But we don't have a number yet?
We don't, and there's changes being proposed to the program open space. The state is proposing to take those funds out of program open space and fill gaps in the general fund for the state.
Is that the project where you're going to have to apply a project in order to get funds?
That is the current process now. Prior to 2025, this was an allocation done by municipalities. The county moved to a competitive approach, and we apply for the pool deck remediation project.
Well, that might be a note that you put into the budget book, that's a whole new process. Because I was looking and didn't see the funds.
I think we're at the form. Is it council's will that the?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm over. But you went a long time.
But thank you for bringing up those points. I also highlighted that page 103, and not just for petitions and requests. It would also It'd be nice to have a percentage or a closure goal for council referrals as well.
Well, and I think I brought that up as well in the comments that I sent earlier, that I think those numbers don't seem like I don't think they're really accurate either, because I think the number of council referrals on that page is much higher than that, depending on how you count them.
I just hope that you'll let me continue asking questions in a more reasonable time.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Let's see, anybody, oh yeah, Mr. Hartman, please.
Michael Hartman, 2 Garden Way. I have one specific question and then some general. On page 102, management objectives of the city council, I noticed as one of your management objectives is to meet regularly with major stakeholders in the city. Since you bring up meetings with folks and the stakeholders are shown in the accomplishments, I'm wondering if it was whether it was a mistake not to put you also management objective meeting with residents and businesses on a regular basis, not just major stakeholders. I wouldn't say that, except you said you're meeting with major stakeholders, and I'm assuming you also hope to meet with residents and businesses as well, not just major stakeholders.
Of course, yeah, we do. We didn't write this, he wrote it.
Well,
So,
I'm sure.
That's really rude of it.
I'll make sure to update. But for me, the single largest stakeholder are the residents.
Yeah,
Well,
I would say
okay.
that I consider residents a major stakeholder, so that,
much so, yeah.
and our businesses too are major stakeholders. So I mean, that's
Okay.
what I think
Anyway,
as council member anyway.
okay. The other I have questions about the public information. Just a question: is the city connector in both English and Spanish is it bilingual rather than monolingual? Since it goes out to everybody.
At this present time, it's in English only.
Okay. Could there be a plan? I know it would cost more money, but if we're always seeking ways of reaching out to all the residents, it seems to me that since that is the one outreach that goes out to everybody, that would be a good thing. Also, in general, I'm interested in the outreach efforts to the Spanish-speaking residents in the city. What general efforts are made, and if we also post to Hispanic publications, if we're making posting things and that nature.
Just for the record, for our city connector, as it stands, it costs about $5,000 per issue. That's one of the things that's on my goals for the future of the city of Greenbelt is to include a Spanish version, but of course that comes at a cost as well. Like say, for example, one of the company that we use to translate for us officially, for one page, it could be range from 45 on up, depending upon the number of words that we use. So it is on my mind. It is one of my goals to increase and include a Spanish version for the city connector.
Okay, thank you.
And Michael, I'll add that we did look at providing a translation of articles in the City Connector. One of the challenges we ran up against and China, feel free to weigh in, that as we were translating the stories in the connector, we either had to reduce the content to have it be bilingual, or we had to produce an entirely new issue in Spanish or a different language, and that would double the cost. So as at the time, we didn't have the capacity to do one or the other from a time perspective and a resource perspective. But we did look at it, and it's something that we continue to look at. On the Spanish media outreach, I did have outreach from El Tiempo Latino when I was appointed city manager. They reached out to me, congratulations, and I entertained several meetings of doing media outreach in Spanish in the city. The challenge I encountered there is that El Tiempo Latino is regional. It's not DC, Maryland, and DC. It's the entire region, and so where it costs a lot of resources to reach such a broad market when our population, our market is 25,000 out of the multiple million that the El Tiempo Latino reaches out to. Check the mic.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, let's, Councilmember McKinney, please.
I had a question, and this might be more for our IT director. I don't know if our Microsoft 365 version has the ability to do AI translation. So I know when you upload documents to SharePoint, some versions of that allow you to do an AI translation. And so I don't know if the cost outweighs what you would have to pay for translation services. Now, obviously, you're not going through localization and validating that, but it is potentially an option for the translation of content.
Correct. I think in that instance, if Mr. Kenneth wants to come up and provide a response to the Office 365 license, I think instead of delivering a citywide solution, maybe having a specific tool for the individuals that need it, similar to how the Recreations Department built out a translation and interpretation model with the Google tablets, the Google Translate, and they've created an ecosystem within their service delivery model to provide interpretation to their customers. But
we're currently looking at our licensing. I'm not sure if the AI module is included in what we have now, but we can put that in what we look at for the next round of licensing.
Maybe worth looking at the cost. I know that in my day job, that's what we use. We translate PDF documents, upload it to SharePoint, and then it translates it into multiple languages. And then we upload it to another, management system or something like that. So it may be worth looking into.
Definitely.
Mr. Kenneth is currently looking at our licensing model. We, as you may be aware, Windows 10 is being supported only through October. We've got most of our Windows 11 system installations, or Windows 11 upgrades done. I just had this conversation with Mr. Kenneth today about the projections of upgrading our Office 2019 to Office 24, which is a local on-premise installation, versus the value to be gained out of the subscription model where we pay a recurring expense. So Mr. Kenneth's working on that among consolidating all of our copiers and network printers throughout the organization. So he gets excited about those things. So.
Yeah, I appreciate the quizzes that go out to all of the employees and council for spoofing attempts. It really kind of gets me thinking about being as careful as I possibly can and never clicking on a link that I haven't looked at how it's actually spelled and whatnot. So some of the security measures that you've implemented, I think, are very helpful.
That's great, and that's the point, to make everybody think, and we've got a good platform for that, so if you continue to do your trainings so you don't get in trouble.
I would add to that, thank you for that recognition, Mr. Mayor, that we have this phishing tool that's been great, but Brian Kendall is not responsible for all the emails coming from the mayor asking for gift cards. That's not us.
Those are real. So many gift cards. No. Yeah, the phishing attempts are ubiquitous, and it's really, it's important. It's so important for us all to be very attentive and to look when a message comes in, even from me, saying, I'm in a meeting right now, but can you go out and purchase a few gift cards? So I want to get a gift for the city manager and for the treasurer.
That's just what gets through, too. We block hundreds of thousands of emails that are stopped at the firewall level in our O365 infrastructure before it gets to you, and that's what's left. But the people are the end defense at that point. You're welcome.
I did want to make a comment about the translation piece. At the National League of Cities, or at a conference that I was at, a couple of municipalities said that they had designated a staff member as a point of contact for translations. So on the fly, if anyone speaking any language has a question or needs some materials translated, they would contact this individual who's designated to do this, and they would see to it that that piece of material was translated into whatever language was requested. So I think it'd be a good idea to consider maybe doing something like that.
That is a great idea. I would say that we have something better in the sense that we have language competent individuals throughout the organization, and there's a pay incentive for folks that use another language other than English in the organization. So we have folks in recreation, the police department, cares. So we have language competency throughout the organization, and I think that's the top service, because our officers, for example, when they're out there, they have language competencies, not just English, but Spanish, French, and other languages. And we support that through the additional stipend that's paid through that. And Mr. Martinez is here, and he coordinates the testing program of those stipends. So it's not just someone saying, I speak Spanish, but there's a test that they have to pass. And we encourage that, and we got good participation.
It's good to know.
Thank you.
Taking the test.
Okay, let's see. Let's keep moving.
All right, now we'll discuss economic development. We put this for last in this category because it's forward looking, as you know, with John Mason. I've been to meetings recently, and I say who I work for, and he's like, "Oh, John Mason's over there."
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and it's a pleasure to be here to be able to present to you tonight. I'm very excited about all the things that are going on in economic development, and just really ecstatic to be able to share some of those things with regards to the budget as well. As you can see on that slide, or first slide there, we are really going gangbusters on this strategic plan that you all had the wisdom to approve funding for. We're working very closely with the consultant who is reaching out to a lot of the businesses in Greenbelt to get feedback. And you mentioned it earlier, Mayor, about you can't really know where you're going until you know where you are. And this strategic plan is really going to be a roadmap for, I would say, taking us into a place where we're attracting more investment, and we're helping our businesses within the city to grow and expand and be successful, because we become resource provider, we become connectors. And that's really what's been going on. I think since I came, a lot of the programs that we have in place now are the result of implementing, significant technology to be able to extract data as a result of meeting and talking to these businesses on a daily basis. And we've uncovered some very interesting things. So just to kind of talk a little bit about that. With regards to the numbers, you can see there is a slight increase for 26. I think that is as a result of operational or personnel expenses. No real change in operating expenses and marketing expenses. I think that's a good number that we're on right there that we can work with. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later on, but with regards again to technology and the money that's being spent thereof, computer services, software services, and what have you, we did bring on Salesforce. Salesforce is a CRM program that we use to track all of our business retention and expansion activities. We were able to bring that on about 2 months ahead of time. Thankfully, we were given some really great help from our IT department. I'll mention one particular thing that they did to really help us out on that. So we were able to get about 850 of our companies loaded into that system. And so we're able to as a result of meeting with them, talking with them, sending them emails, communicating with them to really document a lot of things about what's going on. And also to use other tools, software tools, one of which was Esri, which we don't have a subscription to that yet, but we're thinking that we probably should, and that's reflected in what's going to be the 2026 budget. Esri is a software system that allows us to really extract extremely comprehensive data in the way of infographics that really tell a compelling story about Greenbelt. For example, I mentioned this I think last time we were together, 14.53% of our businesses are in the healthcare industry sector. So that lets us know that we need to really start building on that because we have the infrastructure to support a lot of the medical operations in Greenbelt. So that's just one quick example. Salesforce allows us to, when we get that information, to be able to put it into our system and really analyze that data to see what's going on. The other thing is business engagement, and we've had a lot of that. A lot of it has been via virtual or email contact. We have had about 106 face-to-face meetings with stakeholders and businesses through Salesforce and some of the databases, some that we have actually used that doesn't cost anything. We've been able to segment those by industry sector and to be able to get the email addresses and phone numbers of those companies so we can reach out to them via email in those sectors. And so, for example, SBA, what's called Dynamic Search Database, gives every company in the nation that's ever had a federal government contract. So we extracted the data that showed all the Greenbelt companies that's ever had an SBA contract. We used that system, uploaded that information in there, and the event that we're having on the 3rd, we invited them to that event, and a significant amount of companies, most of which are on Walker Drive and on Ivy Lane Ivy Lane, of course, they don't have to walk across the street because it's at the Crown Plaza. They're going to be there at that conference. So they'll get to see us in action, that we are, as a city, supporting them as a business. They're going to hear from the acting Commerce Secretary for the state of Maryland, Harry Moser. His name escapes me now. I'm sorry, Harry Coker Jr., a very iconic gentleman who is really going around the state talking about this new growth strategy that the governor has brought into legislation, and now it's going to pass, it's going to be implemented. So yeah, things like that allow us to really increase the amount of touches that we have and for people to see us every month. I mean, our newsletter expanded from 400 subscribers, we doubled it. And as opposed to sending it through Constant Contact where it looks like it's going out to, a bunch of people from a list, we were able to, with IT's help, implement a key that allows us to kind of move around what typical spam filters are out there to really be able to get people to see it and to open it. We increased our open rate by 50% after they put that system in there. That was amazing to just be able to hit the send button on a mass mailing and just look at there and just see people popping it open. So we need to increase our touches. And then with Zihan, my trusty assistant, he's been great. Very smart, catches on really fast. He's become getting up to speed with that new system that we've implemented, Salesforce. So now that he can do all of that work back at headquarters, I can actually be out in the field talking to businesses, doing reconnaissance work, getting out good information. And we went on a business visit, Josue and I, last week, and we were able to find, this is an example of the data that we can get to really do an analysis. We were able to discover, one, a company, a significant IT company in Greenbelt, has 120 employees, very high paying salaries, doing great work, lots of federal contracts. But subsequent to what we see that's going on right now in our world, they lost some contracts, and they're going to have to lay some people off. So what we're doing is we're saying to them, okay, so we have connections with the state of Maryland, procurement processes and people, and we can make connections. So now you can pivot and go after maybe some of the same state contracts to really augment or to kind of, fill in the gaps. But without getting too lengthy, just kind of wanted to say again that the strategic plan is going to be a major shot in the arm for us once we get that up and going and we've got that roadmap bringing on more data tools to be able to do that analysis, and me having more time to be out there talking to those businesses, finding out what's really going on in Greenbelt, examining our key location assets in Greenbelt. What really do we have to offer to anybody that wants to, expand and grow and maybe come into this region? Let them know that we've got the biggest office park campus in the county, right here at Capitol Office. Yes, we do. So we're 1 million square feet of office space over there. Class A, some Class B over there, and that's one of our flagship selling inventory. So the last thing is that even with
By the metro station.
oh, certainly it's around all the transportation infrastructure and what have you. In terms of the restaurants and retail, working very closely with Beltway Plaza. They've got that project that's going on in the back of them, looking for some investment to get that underway. We are also working with them to partner on venues for programs like we have. For example, we're going to have a job fair over there in May to really kind of bring people out to show them, with all of the companies that we've invited to come and set up tables to, talk to people about employment opportunities. And then restaurants. So we do have, as you know, we have our, what used to be Chevy's restaurant. That is an incredible location. And so what we're being told by the property owner there, who owns the pad site, is that they're getting a lot of calls on there. There's some technical issues that we've got to work around from a planning standpoint. We've already engaged planning. We've already engaged economic development. As you know, they go out to ICSC every year. So we want them to go out and show our wares, Chevy's, the locations, things like that. So we brought the gentleman in from EDC. He was with us when we toured the building with the property owner representative. And they're getting some hits. But we're going to work around this technical issue. It's really a private sector issue. Really, we can't do a whole lot. It's got to be a negotiation between the shopping center owner and the pad site owner. But they're willing to, see what we can do. If we can get a good white tablecloth, I would say, full service restaurant there in that location, and that would be really nice for Greenbelt. So my job is, as Josue will tell you, is to really, kind of be the person that knows everything that's going on. Sometimes he knows more than I know, but I'm going to catch up with him in a minute because he's out there too. I've noticed on some of our meetings, and so we're learning from each other because, of course, being the city manager, you're privy to a lot more information. But spending a lot of time with he and certainly Tim and working with my colleagues, I really am enjoying this journey. I'll just say that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for that presentation, John.
Sorry for the long-windedness.
That I would like for you to add, John, is the Zoom Spectre with the state, that we're now part of a state system where we're cataloging vacant or available property for lease and sell in the city. So now we had initially talked about the city acquiring its own data system to promote what property is available for lease in the city. Well, John found a way to do it for no cost to the city. So
it's powerful.
We put a little trick there, but in addition to that, there's another software program, one last thing I promise, called Resimplify, that allows us to actually have our own website for building and sites inventory. That we have a company that goes out, talks to all the brokers in the region, and does advertising just for Greenbelt on one tab of our website. So I've been working with our PIO to, once that website is up and going and we, get things all in order, that we'll have a tab on there just for Greenbelt, all of our building and sites and properties for Greenbelt. You can go look at there and not be going off the page once you go away from that site. So, as Josue said, we're using the free version right now, but we're going to step up our game a little bit when the website comes on board.
Thank you for a really upbeat presentation, which really is juxtaposed with some of the situations that we're facing, with small business small businesses, that women and minority-owned businesses in particular that do contracting business with the federal government, and it's the office vacancy, and with our retail and our restaurants, the city is at a point. through your work and through the work of our staff over a number of years, where we seem to be making some progress, but there's just so many other forces outside of our control that are impacting our revenue sources. And when you talk about economic development, you really, on the one hand, you are talking about revenue that is going to come to the city one way or the other. So I'm confident that the actions that you and staff are taking are moving us in the right direction. I wasn't aware that the office park, Capitol Office Park, you said it was the largest office park in
the county.
In the county.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's powerful. I never heard that said.
Single.
Single.
Within that campus, that square footage is the largest square footprint that we have in the city.
It's so transit. I mean, between the Beltway and everything else is right there. I mean, it's amazing that there's not more activity.
Well, certainly. I've been working with Morningcom, the owners, since they first came here from Florida and bought that office park. Mukhan Chow, actually probably one of the first people that met him when I was with
the county, because that's before you came to
Yes, and so we've continued our conversations, and his right-hand man, Eric Geronimo, and Jose Felipe, we're working really closely to try to market that space. So when we get a hot one, we take them over there. I mean, we try to definitely spread the wealth. Certainly, Walker Drive is pristine as well. But we've got some good inventory to sell, so it's just a matter of, we've got some good product on the shelf. So we really just need to be out there in the street and, perusing the country to see who's really wanting to move around and let them know the Greenbelt is open for business.
It's great. We can't forget about Roosevelt Center, the heart and soul of historic Greenbelt, and anything that we can do to enhance, get more eyes and foot traffic coming through Roosevelt Center, we certainly need to do. With the management objectives, I think, once again, item number 1 and number 4, we can kind of quantify that. It sounds like you've got the marketing campaign strategy just about ironed out, so we're looking forward to the consultants coming back and kind of presenting that to the public and to council. And the business retention right now and expansion strategies, you just talked about those extensively. So just quantify that and keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. And if you need to see data, we have data. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
All right, we'll now transition to non-departmental and fund transfers replacement fund.
Okay. And you can find those budgets in the miscellaneous tab. And starting with it starts on page.
Before we go there, just so are there any public comment or questions from the last presentation? Let's keep going.
Okay, great. Miscellaneous tab, it starts on page 241, ends on 248. There are 4 accounts in this. Yes, they're up. There are 4 accounts in this miscellaneous tab. We're going to talk about 2 of them tonight, which is non-departmental and fund transfers. Grants and contributions will be discussed March 31st, and Greenbelt Connection will be discussed April 2nd as part of the Public Works budget. But I want to emphasize that this is the budget, Ms. McKinney, that you were talking about on Monday, that's missing from that one document. And these funds are supported by the general fund. So again, non-departmental. So non-departmental is budgeted at $1,897,000 this year, and most of it is for workers' comp. Workers' compensation grows it actually grew in 24 and in 25. It's budgeted in 3 departments: public safety, public works, and recreations and park. They have the most employees, and that's where most of the cost it comes from. It's really driven by workers' compensation claims. We have a very high amount of claims each year, and it's reflected in this in the increase that we saw. In 24, we have an audit every year, and when we had the audit, it was actually increased, the amount that we paid was actually increased by $201,000 over the budgeted amount. We expect that to happen in 25 as well, and so I have budgeted accordingly. I do believe it will go down in 2026, and so you'll see that budget in 26 remain at the 25 level. The reason I did that is because HR Director Dwayne Martinez is working with department heads, particularly Public Works and Public Safety, to really look into why they're having so many claims. And so there's going to be I guess, a real effort to bring the number of claims down. It's also increased because in 24, because that is the year that we had the compensation study increases to go in for all employees. So that was part of it. It should catch up by 2026. And so again, that is the reason that I kept the 26 workers' comp level at the same as 25.
Is the workman, so is that, do we insure that through the local government insurance trust legit fund? Are they the ones?
Legit, that is legit, that's
Okay,
correct.
so that's like a cooperative of local governments that work together.
Yes, yes. I think it's a pool of local governments, yes.
Right, right. So the rate that we get, or the increases are specific to Greenbelt, or are they
to Greenbelt
regional
staff.
somehow? Just to Greenbelt?
Greenbelt staff, that's correct.
It's based on our loss history.
Mhm.
The premiums are based on our loss history, and as Ms. Gaiman mentioned, we have had a lot of claims. And there are some structural issues there, the one that Mr. Martinez is looking to address with compliance review and follow-up. Also encouraging folks to go to workers' comp medical evaluation team versus just going to anyone. There are other structural issues. I don't know if this is the time to worth having a conversation in the future.
That is the plan, to have that conversation, even with our with the broker.
Okay.
So, okay, we also have other special programs within the non-departmental budget. Friends of Greenbelt Theater, we maintain their contribution at $75,000. The homeowners investment program at $10,000. These are the continuing programs that we've had in the past, and so we continue them in the 26 budget. The renters credit, unallocated appropriations, $30,000. Now, I will say that I think my budget comment reduced that down to 12, and that's because that was part of the budget cut. But when the revenue was increased, we increased this amount. This is a dollar amount that council has to use for any unbudgeted item, i.e. the Armory last year. This is how we funded the Armory. It was not part of the original budget, and so we were able to add the Armory expenses using these dollars. Maryland State Retirement, so this is just our administrative fee that we pay every year. And so basically all of these items are ongoing items from prior years, and the cost just goes up like everything else. And so we're at $1.8 million, up from 1.5 in 2025.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, and this is where, I see the retiree prescription subsidy on here, which we just had to allocate extra money for. But so right now in the fiscal 26 budget, we have the same that we had for fiscal 25. So that's where we're going to have to probably at some point do something similar, unless we can get costs down when I think you said that we can maybe our cycle for benefits is, did you say May? May, okay.
That's correct. The conversation around those subsidies, we need to revisit as part of the open enrollment and the renewal process. We're going to get new pricing for our medical or health insurance and prescription plans. So it's worth having that discussion with council at that time. Ms. Pope, you had asked us to look at it, so we're going to ask a variety of scenario-based questions. What does a premium increase look like compared to anything that we can tweak in the program? Whether we required generics versus brand name prescriptions and whatnot. So we're going to have those discussions when the time's right. So for the year, we're leaving this amount just as a planning tool. And just as a note, when we were putting together the budget, we started working on this in November, December.
Right.
So at the time, we were projecting a 91,000
We know it's higher.
expenditure, so we knew that it's creeping up. February came around, and we're now looking at a projection of 130,000. So.
I had a question about the homeowners investment program. So on the one hand, there are two components that are listed of that. One has to do with the state program, which is a 50% match, and that's for renters that their income falls below a certain level. So that's something that I'm not sure that a lot of people are aware of that, but that you, in filing your state taxes, you would have to ask for that. And there's an additional form, yeah, but it's not really on the city website. It's something that you'd have to kind of know about.
This program is really, I guess, managed by CARES. So I think, they are aware of folks who are in need and seniors who are in need, and this is just the fund that they recommend using should, someone have a special one-time kind of request.
Okay, and that's the sort of the aging in place thing, where if someone needs to make renovations to
To
stay
their
in
homes or
home,
to their apartments.
rails on the back, and that's a grant program, so you would have to look on the website at the CARES section and in order to find that information.
That is correct, yes.
Right. So it says 5,000 is remaining in the piggyback fund, the 504, and then there's 10,000, but the line item says 10,000 total. So why is that?
Well, one is for the homeowners investment program, that's the 10,000, and then the renter's credit is 5,000. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the miscellaneous fund?
Ms. Gaiman, one note I would say, since the grants page is on here, you will see a lot of zeros on that right-hand column proposed.
This is a special meeting.
I know it's a special meeting, but I just as you're looking through that, there's a lot of zeros in there because there's going to be a review panel that's going to make recommendations to council on those recognition group awards. But that total, there's a budget set aside at the bottom of that. That's $224,900. So total for grants and groups are $271,000. So that matches up to the number that you're looking there. So if you're wondering why the number says 271 and there's all these zeros, is because that pot of money is in one place.
I was wondering that, but I wasn't gonna ask because we weren't talking about it tonight.
Okay.
I was like, am I missing something here? But I was missing something, and now I know what it was.
So that's the explanation. We'll discuss that as a separate topic. I think there's 2 days set aside for that.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, actually, that's just because I was looking at that section that the mayor was just referring to, the renter and homeowner investment programs on 244. And it says there that the homeowner program has grown from 10,000 to 19,000 fiscal 23, 24, and 25, but it's still, okay.
It was budgeted, and if you had the budget columns, which we do not show, it was budgeted for 19,000. However, folks did not use it.
Okay,
So
I
yeah,
see, okay,
yeah.
so
we
it reduced it back down, okay, that makes sense now, okay. Because only 10,000 was used, so we're keeping it at the amount that was used.
around that time, yes. Actually, if you look at 23 for homeowners investment program, 23 the actual was 5236.
Less, yeah, it wasn't even 10,000.
24 was zero.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so, but it was budgeted at 19,000, and so it didn't make sense to continue.
Get that high when
Exactly.
historically it hasn't been used
It
that
hasn't
much.
been
That makes
used,
sense.
that's correct. Now, with the economics as they are, who knows, it may go up future years, but that is the reason.
I don't think a lot of people realize that those programs are there. I think maybe there may be more folks who could take advantage of either one of those programs, and just hard to find the information.
Guess we could you know, put it on the website or, as I said, I know CARES actually handles this program, this line item, so I'm not sure what they actually do to publicize it. Yeah.
One of the advantages of now having constituent services as a more formalized function is that tomorrow we'll have a renters town hall, and renters credit is a topic for tenants town hall. So
Did you say tomorrow?
yes, tomorrow,
What
7
time?
to 9,
And that's, where is that going to be?
right here.
Right here at the municipal building?
Well, and I think the other thing is we can make a note to ask CARES when we're talking to CARES. So I'm going to add that to my page that I've already started with questions for CARES.
So Liz, if you're watching, you got some homework already.
I think it's Crystal, really, but okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, all right.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to fund transfers. Fund transfers, if you would bring it up, please.
And, you know, the fund transfers, they can be a little bit confusing.
I knew someone would say that. As I was writing this, it confused me. So yes,
Because it's tied into our reserve policies as well in some cases.
and what I'm showing, the $3,038,000 is actually the expense part of it. So we transfer dollars from the general fund fund balance to cover these costs. So, and actually, if you looked at the revenue, you'll see $1.8 million being transferred to cover these costs, along with whatever revenues that have increased. So, but this is the expense part that I'm showing right now.
Right, and the revenue side would actually show up in the beginning of the
That's
budget book
correct.
back on page 50, back in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, that's correct.
All right.
So this is just to denote that this is what the city will cover, will transfer in these expenditures for it's really for grants and contributions, the 271,000 that we were just talking about, Greenbelt Connection, the 198,000, 300 non-departmental, the 1897, and fund transfers, I'm showing the 3 million. Now, there is a separate budget for each one of these categories that I'm showing here. On page, again, starting on page 2, I think it's 241 through 248, 247. I think when Ms. McKinney was asking about it on Monday, it made me think about it. Yeah, so I'm just thinking, you know, maybe we could talk about how to best present this. As you mentioned last year, it was on the fund balance page, and so it showed as part of the expenditures, but we removed it because it looked like we were double counting it. So maybe there is a better way for us to present it. We'd take a look at it.
Yeah. The other way to present it would be to reduce it from our operating and show it as a separate item in the miscellaneous fund when we do that budget at a glance. And that show the total will still be 50, the 50 plus million that's there. But when we present the operating budget, we're booking that expense through the operating budget. So there's
Yeah, and because it's in the general fund, it's being funded by the general fund. I guess we could create a real fund for it and just have it stand alone like capital projects and other funds. So we'll look at it. We'll look at it. I mean, I just heard you say you were confused by it, and so yeah.
Well, I've got a pretty clear understanding, but it's just looking really, really carefully at page 246 and 247. Just there's some pretty large movements, like
Yes.
that $750,000 transfer from the general fund to capital improvements. Then the next sentence says talks about building improvements, on the other hand, being moved into the from the capital reserve fund. So I was wondering, is that an error, or the way that that's stated, is that correct?
I think it's a sort of a play on words. I used use of fund balance, and I think if you looked on our at our CAFR or AFCR, it says capital reserves. So I think it's just the wording is different, and I'll tidy that up.
Okay,
I'll
because
tidy
the
that
same
up.
thing on page 247, I guess it's $1 million transfer to the general fund from the replacement fund. In the next sentence, it says funds from building improvements will be transferred from the capital reserve fund. So instead of capital reserve fund, that should be the replacement fund?
Really should just be general fund balance. So I'll tidy that up. Okay, yes. All of these come from the general fund balance.
I see there's a question. Is that specifically about what I just asked? Do you want to ask your question?
I don't think your mic's working, Jay. Hold on a minute.
There you go.
Okay. Do we know how many retirees are receiving prescription subsidies?
44.
Pardon?
44. Mr. Martinez just signaled
44.
to me. 44.
44, right? Okay. Do we know how many renters are getting the piggyback credit? Because what happens is that they get whatever it is they apply to the state, and it automatically is supposed to come from the city. So do we know how many?
I do not have that number, but I can certainly get it
Okay.
for you. Uh-huh.
And I know under ARPA, we did have money for first-time home buyers, anybody, but there is a policy that any employee can also get funds. How do we have, where in the budget is that fund?
That is covered within each department budget. So if an employee gets that that subsidy, I'm not sure whether I should call it a subsidy, but if they buy a home and they get renters, anything is paid for within each department's budget.
It should probably be listed with the special programs, it would seem to me. I mean, that would be more logical because it is a special program,
Well, let me see.
but it's not.
It is within, we do not budget, I guess that is the problem. We do not
It
budget
doesn't
for it.
happen very often,
It
but
doesn't
we do
happen
want to
very-
encourage our employees to purchase a home if they can
Yes.
in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't want to, but that's okay. And I forgot, was that subsidy or that bonus or whatever you want to call it, was that 5,000 or 10,000?
5.
5,000?
I'm pretty sure it was 5.
I think under ARPA, we gave 10,000, is that
10,000,
correct?
correct.
But this would be 5.
Or it was
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a couple more questions that I want to pose. One had to do with the TIF, Greenbelt Station. And, a lot of thought went into that, but TIFs are dependent upon the economy, and it's sort of like a bet about what's going to happen. So I was just wondering, how has that TIF appreciated over time? Is it meeting our performance expectations?
I would have to run that report. If I looked at, that's that'll be in the next presentation. That's other funds, but that's debt services. So there is a schedule.
Yeah, there's a schedule.
There's a schedule, and it's in other funds. It's in the next presentation, but I would think, I don't know much about it, to be honest, because it was before I got here, but we continue to make the payments based on,
Appreciated value
yes,
of the
yes,
property over time.
based on the
so
schedule that we have in hand, yes.
Just wondering if it actually meets our
On
projections.
We can go there.
The payments are made based on what we borrowed against the TIF to make the improvements.
Right.
I met with the Davenport team early in my tenure with the organization. And then I met with him again after the FBI announcement. So that would have been December, January timeframe. And one of the questions or one of the issues that came up is what is available in the TIF to borrow against? And that question came up if when we're looking at that road, that based on the deed and the agreement that council signed at the time, there's that road is going to be paid for through the TIF.
That's exactly what I'm at. How's the TIF performing?
So in my meeting with Davenport at the time, they did say that we have borrowing capacity at that TIF, and that borrowing capacity is against the assessed value of the land that's in improvements that are on this.
TIF is.
Yes. So there is room to borrow against in that TIF, and I think that's what you're getting at is how much has that has that increased in value? And yes, the assets within that TIF have increased in value.
Right. So what I was really asking is, the increase in the value, is it what we anticipated? Is it performing the way that we expected?
I'm not aware of the details of what council anticipated at the time, but if we needed to borrow against for that road, there is room to borrow against in that TIF. Now that what you're borrowing against is the future property tax payments within that TIF.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, this might be a good time to talk about the question that was technically from the first part, but the bond rating that we were talking about, if we're talking about borrowing money, because thinking about that, if that having to pay for that road if that goes forward, but also we were also talking earlier about the armory, which could be something that we might need to do a bond for to fund. So and the quote that was on page 53 was this comment that the city's bond rating has expired and management is now reviewing how and when to obtain a new bond rating. And I'm not sure that I understand enough about how that all works. And, how does one go about getting a new bond rating? Is that something that we need to start planning for now so we're ready when we might need to put a bond through for the armory? I just a little bit about that process would be very helpful because I'm not familiar with it particularly.
I think it is a good time to start looking at it if we're thinking about borrowing. The last time we talked about this was a couple years ago when we had Davenport to come in and look at. We were worried about whether or not we should have bonds or pay for capital projects, get rid of this pay-as-you-go kind of deal. And so we had them to come in to just look at our status. And at that time, we talked about the fact that we do not have a rating. And we haven't had one for a long time, and they were poised to do one for us should we want to borrow. But that conversation was tabled because we received the ARPA dollars, and then there was no need to we had money to buy for capital projects and things of that nature. So I can get them back around the table and have a conversation with them, have them to present, or we can revisit the information that they provided a while ago, and we can start that conversation, and they can really tell us exactly what needs to happen.
I think in order to get a bond rating, you have to shop it around to the different brokers. And
Well,
if I'm not mistaken, before we got the TIF, we actually had to get that. But that was, I don't know,
Years and years ago. That was for Greenbelt West. Yeah,
expired.
yeah.
So
That's
you,
what,
so you have to know what you need money for, how much money you need, and then you hire bond counsel
Right.
to help us navigate the Davenport they do bond counseling to put together a packet and then shop it around. Who's gonna they have to get our bond rating. What are based on our financials? How creditworthy are we? Now, I think we're top notch creditworthy, but we will need somebody to give us that designation, then shop around the funds that we need. What could we use bond money for? The Armory would be a good example. There are some communities that issue bonds for road resurfacing projects because those can take millions of dollars, and those roads are good for number of years. We're fortunate that we are able to keep up with $1 million of road resurfacing every year, in addition to the grant money that we are able to secure to do road resurfacing. But as you can see, the constraints that we're having with revenues, we're having to make some difficult decisions. Part of the conversation this year is going to be to look at our revenue streams. How are we diversifying our revenue streams? What are the economic development opportunities? We're landlocked. So we need to explore what's infill development can be done in the city. should we start thinking of properties that are budding the city?
Good point. And, that's been a major priority of the Maryland Municipal League this year, trying to diversify the possibilities, the tools in the municipalities' toolbox to actually increase, to get new revenue streams. And the director of the league was saying just today that since 1967, there have not been any major changes to the ways that municipalities can raise revenue. So we need to get creative. We also need to see what our sister municipalities in the county and around the area are doing. There probably are a few things, but with so much uncertainty from the federal government and from the state to some extent, we need to get creative.
And we have some rooms in our existing structure. An example that I've discussed with colleagues in other municipal areas is there's a railroads and public utilities tax.
Exactly.
That we don't spell out. We're collecting some taxes on public utilities through personal property tax designation that we have, but we're not capturing all the utility revenue that we could. Like Bladensburg, Berwyn Heights, they have a specific railroad and public utilities tax that they're tasking those land and buildings and improvements at a different rate than the other properties.
Sounds a little abstract, railway and utilities, but what you're talking about is utilities, and all of the utility poles that we have with different fixtures on them is another source of revenue that our sister municipalities are taking advantage of. We need to look at that. I had another question about interfund transfer.
Mm-hmm.
This is related to economic development. We set up this economic development revolving fund a number of years ago, and the intention was to set it up. It's a revolving loan fund, but the idea with the allocations was that we would be building this fund over time. But instead, it seems like the funds are just reverting back into unallocated funding, and so we're just reauthorizing it at the same amount, $25,000.
That is correct,
Yeah.
and that those funds are held right across the street at that bank across the street. We just continue to add the dollars. There have been no expenses at all.
Right. So I think last year or 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I talked about maybe broadening the criteria so that, I think it was facade improvements at Roosevelt Center had something to do with the initially, but
Okay.
I think perhaps there's some other utilizations that we might, from our experience in ARPA, there are other types of improvements that might be more attractive. And I think the idea of having a revolving fund where a private company can borrow money, but they have to pay it back, I think that's a good use of resources.
That's an excellent point, Mr. Mayor. When you emailed that question, I pulled up the proposal that I received from Kevin Simpson when I first joined the team, and he had outlined business retention and expansion recommendations. Among them were the revolving loan fund. The challenge that Kevin had at the time were twofold. We had set aside ARPA money for capital improvements for businesses and then business recovery. So those were grants that, unlike the revolving loan fund, revolving loan fund is what the name implies, that those folks expect to pay back that loan. The grants that we were providing at that time were capital improvements and business recovery loans that were appropriate for the pandemic. So that was one issue that he faced, that we had these competing programs that how do you lend money when you're giving money away?
Right.
The second piece of the conversation was that there was not enough money in the
Right.
fund for the bank, for the institution, the financial institution, to manage to generate enough interest income to offset the cost of managing a revolving loan fund, right? With a revolving loan fund, you got to set up the accounts, the loan accounts, set up a protocol to receive payments and billing and all that. And there just was not enough money in that fund to generate enough interest income to pay for itself. So in his recommendation was to build up a fund between $800,000 and $1 million for the fund to generate enough interest income to pay for itself. Mm-hmm.
That's a lofty goal. But as far as building it up over time and redefining it as we talk about business attraction and retention, just having some money, a revolving loan fund where, say, a medical practice that wanted to come in and build out their facility with the, plumbing or water and electricity that would meet a high-tech firm that would meet their needs, having a revolving loan fund that could help would be a good idea.
Yes, and I'm thinking of those examples that you gave. $25,000 a year setting aside is not gonna do that. Mhm.
So long story short, I would like to try to make those modifications and so that it's not just the same amount, but just build that up one step at a time.
The alternative could be, instead of doing something like facade improvements, we think of more like microloans. Microloans, like, anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000. Like, what does a small business entrepreneur, say at a farmer's market or something that makes their own wares, how much do they need to get something started? And just, not to fabricate it out of thin air, but we got some good examples in our community. We got the space that's doing 3D printing. What does a micro loan look like to give assistance to somebody to buy T-shirts and plastic filament to generate something that they could bring a product to market, and once they sell that, they pay it back to the loan.
Or a restaurant that's trying to come to town and they're having issues, unexpected things with permitting and just having to make some, and this is a real world example, so let's make that change in the criteria.
Okay.
Not tonight, but.
Oh, yes, so that would require council deliberations about that. Mhm. Mhm.
Hey, are there some other questions, or do you have some more information to present?
Oh, just one more other funds. And it includes the cemetery fund, which we have no dollars budgeted this year for, but should we need them, we will certainly find funds to put in the cemetery fund. Debt services, we were just talking about. The bottom line on debt services is the loans or the bonds, TIFs, whatever we have that we owe for, that is where we put the debt service is where we pay those kinds of expenses, the principal, interest, and related costs, and it's outlined in debt services budget. And I'm sorry, I don't think there is a page. There's no pages on here, but it's right behind the cemetery fund.
It's 251 is debt for services.
Okay, I don't have numbers on my page, on page 251. And then special projects, we continue to have dollars come in from external sources, and we bring the dollars in for those sources and pay expenditures from this same account. New this year would be CARES, and we'll talk about CARES dollars when they have their budget session. But new in the 26 budget, we actually removed $115,000 from the revenues from the city, put it in special projects, and it's specifically to pay for several CARES positions. So, and then the continuing ones are Ramada, and I'm trying to think of one that I wanted to highlight. The speed cameras, that's what I was looking for.
What is the WMATA payment?
We provide staffing at the metro station for the WMATA, and security, and we bill WMATA for our services rendered. So that's the reimbursement.
It's a revenue source.
Yes,
it's an expense also, I guess.
It is an expense on our part, and it's booked as in reimbursement because we incur the expense by staffing the officer doing city staff time, and then WMATA reimburses us for that.
That arrangement is for the parking lot, not for the platform. It's just the parking lot.
Not inside the station, right? Not inside the station. But if a police presence, there's a fight, or just something that merits a response, we will respond. Similar to how we respond to Hanover Apartments, that is not in the corporate limits of the city, but it's almost entirely, actually, it's entirely surrounded by the city, and county police cannot get to it.
Right.
We're not going to leave someone who needs help waiting on county police. Well, it's mutual aid. It's mutual aid agreements we have with the county and other jurisdictions. Let's take last week's fire fire as an example. Berwyn Heights was right there, shoulder to shoulder with us, evacuating people, and we returned that service to us.
Okay, so we also have the Green Ridge House Fund that's, it's not really part of the city's budget, but we are responsible for that location, and so we show their budget. They will actually present their budget on May 7th. And then finally, we have the replacement fund, for which the city is sending dollars over to this replacement fund to do, to replace a number of vehicles and other major equipment. And I'll turn it over to Mr. George, and he can talk about that.
Before we get into replacement fund, on the special funds, you'll see an allocation of interest on investments. At 640, there was an article today, in a report on inflation. So inflation's down to 2.8%. And so the question in the report, or the financial projection was, well, where interest rates are going. If inflation's down to 2.8%, when do we expect interest rates to follow and reduce? Well, one of the risk exposures we have in this budget is that we are booking $640,000 of interest on investments. So, and that's contingent on interest rates remaining similar to what they are now and our cash balance being what they are now. So that's some risk we have.
But we certainly received that close to, well, a little over that amount in 2024. But of course, interest rates were very high. And so.
Hey, I'm this page 248. I was wondering, before we talk about the replacement fund, I'm just wondering, can you talk about this page 248, the fund transfer history as a percentage of expenditures? What does that mean?
Well, it's looking at the dollar amount of fund transfers every year and comparing it to the total expenditure budget. So this represents fund transfers as a percentage of total expenditures each year.
Kind of looks like my heart rate during one of these work sessions. But the reason why I was asking is it really dipped during COVID, then it peaked, I guess, because of the ARPA dollars.
ARPA dollars, that's correct. That is correct. Yes.
Correct. And there's a chart on, or a table on 286. If you turn to 286, it looks at revenues and expenditure over the last 10 years. So you're looking at total revenues versus expenditures.
Right.
And then at the bottom, it has an unassigned fund balance.
Right.
So that fund balance growth at the bottom there between 2020 and 2023, it coincides with that low percentage of transfers from the funds. So because our transfers were reduced, that allowed us to build up unassigned fund balances.
That's because we were being very, very cautious, not knowing what was going to happen next
Well,
with COVID.
we had ARPA money as well. And so a lot of the expenses that we would have used fund transfers for, we leveraged the ARPA money to pay for those things. And there are numerous other examples too. In addition, like if we didn't have the POS money for the pool deck remediation, that's $1.5 million that we will be pulling from fund.
And the reason why I brought that up is, so that's the ARPA funding is gone. Now that the percentage is increasing, and it's going to continue to increase. And that kind of pivots back to my original statement about some of the structural challenges that we will face going forward.
Absolutely, yes.
Because we have so many buildings and so much infrastructure.
So replacement fund.
Tim, I'm sorry to interject there, but all yours now.
Really duplication of what the city manager presented to you all on Monday night. Just showing it's a $1.231 million list. The biggest of which it really is the $685,000 EV Packer. So the first electric trash truck we're bringing into the system. So that's compared to about $380 for a gasoline or a diesel powered truck. But that's something that we've all wanted. The council was directed to try to be more electric. This certainly shows that ARPA is no longer a factor. So all of our vehicles and capital projects from now on are going to come from either grants or from the city's budget. And even with ARPA, there were a number of pieces of equipment that we were not able to purchase just because of the way we're allocating the money. The loader, the first one on the list, the case loader for one, as well as the recreational equipment, has been on the replacement fund list for a number of years that we've been delaying. And in those three cases, we've gotten to a point where we really need that equipment now. And then the other vehicles, we just have a lot of older vehicles. So they're, as you know, we have a long list that goes out to 2030 and beyond for equipment, and these are the vehicles that have come up for replacement.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to note that the ICE there is internal combustion engine, not what a different, just,
True.
that's all.
So the
Maybe we
replacements,
should spell it out.
Yeah.
replacement schedule, is it 8 years or 10 years?
For, I'm sorry, for what item?
For cars and trucks and whatnot?
It depends, it varies. What the equipment is.
We have it out to 2033 in the budget document, so we kind of keep it, and then every year around budget time, Public Works and the departments will look through it, see what they want. We'll take a look at the numbers. We try to refresh them so that they kind of inflationary stay current. So I sat down with both the Bryans, and we went through the replacement fund table to update it for the next through 2033.
Police vehicles are different because they have so many miles, and
They're also in the police. They're also in the police budget.
they're also in the police budget.
Right.
Let's see, I see a question from the public. Sorry, Ms. Niesel, did you have a question? Please go ahead, Ms. Niesel.
Quick question.
Please.
I remember that with the ARPA, and this is probably better for Mr. Kim, but in case you can answer it, we had quite a few mowers on the list of ARPA-funded vehicles for Public Works, and so I was just confused about the presence of the zero-turn mower on here as well.
The mowers that we bought for ARPA were specific for the ball fields, so they were kind of designed for ball fields, and this is a much larger mower that's just designed for just larger fields.
Is that, I don't think that's on.
Okay.
There you go.
If you look, first of all, there's no page numbers, as someone already said, so that's one of your corrections. But I think you have another correction, because if you look at the budget comments for number 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is multipurpose equipment and park equipment, if you go back and look at the previous page, they're all zeros. But if you look on the budget comments, it has how much they actually cost. So if you look at the green, they're zeros.
All right, so that's a correction we need to make.
Yeah, so that's a correction. So I'll be
Thank you.
sending my corrections to
Thank you for that.
Kristen.
You can send them to me and I'll
you'll
enter
take
them. I
care of
think
it,
there's
yeah.
going to be a track change type document, so you
Good.
can email them to me and I'm happy to enter those.
I want to assume too.
Well, I'm going to put them in the shared document that we're going to have.
Okay.
I really think these items were revised and the budget comments didn't get updated, but we will update them.
Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and I want to thank everybody in the room for their engagement and for just the work that you put in every day, but in particular your attention to this budget proposal. So thank you all for being here, Ms. Gaiman, Mr. Summer, and Mr. George. We really, really appreciate you. And, it's kind of hard to work through some of this information, but hopefully we'll be able to pass this budget.
That's my hope as well.
It's our budget. This is a partnership.
All right. I think we have a couple of information items to cover.
As we close, I want to thank the staff that's here. We were prepared for any scenario where we had to do a line by line or a summary, so the team was fully prepared. So I want to thank them for being here this evening, and thank you for the great work that we're doing. And in closing of this budget session, just want to say that the economic landscape in both the county, the state, remains a challenging one. Further, no one really knows what the federal policy changes will be. That's an added level of uncertainty to our revenue outlook. and there's just a lot of challenges there. So we need to remain vigilant of what those changes are and adaptable and agile.
Agile. Yeah. So thank you so much. Let's move to the information items.
Excellent. I had two, and I'll start with the first one, and the second one hopefully will come to me. The first one, I had a meeting with the AMR team as follow-up to discussion we had about ambulance services and medical services. So the AMR team in Berwyn Heights, we've been discussing what a medical service model looks like. So we're ready to schedule a meeting with council to discuss for the AMR team to make a presentation. So we welcome some dates that you want to schedule that. And we have some flexibility. Do we want to do it as a joint meeting with Berwyn Heights, or do we want to have small group orientation? We're open to what council wants to do, what's convenient and efficient.
Yeah, I think possibly we could jointly have the discussion with Berwyn if it's the same presentation, because we're so closely linked.
Yes, and that's what makes sense to doing it together. There was some thought about maybe expanding it to other 4 cities or other municipalities. You know, there's several of us are being affected by the fire and EMS services, and looking at the budget.
So you're thinking, Jenny, you're saying maybe we can bring it up, broach it at the 4 cities?
For the city, so we can invite them on the 24th. The challenge we have for the 24th is that somehow the Maryland City Managers Association booked the City Managers Conference for that same day. So I think council at the 4 cities we're just joking that maybe the city managers are going to go away on some training together, and it just so happened that we're all going to go away for some training together.
I have to go out of town that week, so I'm not going to be there. So maybe we should.
So the 24th is
we should
Kind
reschedule.
of different, yeah. Well, that's a thought, I suppose, but yeah.
So the issue that came up with doing a 4 cities presentation is that the geographic proximity of Berwyn Heights and Greenbelt makes it conducive for a joint presentation because the resources can be shared. Once we introduce New Carlton, they're much further away. The cost structure is different because they're much further away. We couldn't provide backup resource for each one. Also, the way the fire stations are set up. We have a good relationship with our fire station, so does Berwyn Heights. We're not sure about the dynamics of New Carlton. So those are reasons that we discussed today. What makes sense in terms of a presentation.
It's good news. So certainly I think a joint with Berwyn Heights and College Park would probably work.
Yeah, and I feel comfortable having this discussion because we have discussed this a pilot project with the fire chief Green. So this isn't going to be news to her.
Right.
Obviously, we wouldn't be entertaining this if there was no possibility at all.
Okay, thank you for that. And the other one?
The other one, I think, is the town hall. I think there was a strong support for a town hall meeting on the budget. So welcome some dates to schedule that.
Thinking a weekend would be a good time to hold that conversation, simply because many of our residents are constrained about being able to listen in and to ask questions. So personally, I would not have a problem with coming in on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon to have that kind of a town hall.
So,
Well, and in addition, I wonder if we could explore having things outside of this particular part of Greenbelt as well. I know that this is something we've brought up several times, and it's been quite some time since we've had any sort of substantial meeting outside of, this municipal chamber. So, including the tenants' rights town hall, I would love to see something like that happen where there's perhaps a larger percentage of renters. So if we can keep those things in mind when scheduling things in the future, I would appreciate it.
So right now, the 2 public hearings for the budget are on, the April 28th and May 12th. I don't know whether we want to situate a town hall in between those, after the public hearings, wait till we've gone through most of the budget. I'm just thinking that it'd be good to, while we're here talking about it, sort of put some proposals. I mean, we have the last sort of budget work session before the final one is the recognition groups on the 19th. So I don't know if it makes sense to put something, although the next weekend is Memorial Day weekend, and I don't think we want to do a Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, so that seems like a bad idea.
So are you thinking the 17th
maybe
or the
the
24th?
Well, the 24th is Memorial Day
Okay,
weekend, so we
17th.
don't, I don't think we want to do that. But possibly May 17th. That puts us towards the end of the budget, so people will, we will have been through almost all of the budget work sessions except for the final one. I could also see it doing it in between the two public hearings. That might be, that's also something to think about. Because the public hearings, after all, are also opportunities for the public to come and comment. And so if we advertise those, those are both in Center City since they're in the council chamber. So what would the Saturday in between those be? It would be the 3rd or the 10th?
I like the
The 3rd is Berwyn Heights Day, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Maybe the 10th is also the Green Man Festival, but maybe we can go take a sign over to the Green Man Festival and say, hey, come talk about the Greenbelt budget.
Yeah, maybe on the 10th.
That Mother's Day weekend?
It is Mother's Day weekend. It's also the beginning of the farmers market on Sunday on Mother's Day.
So that rules the 11th out.
Right. I don't know but I don't know, does that rule the 10th out?
I wouldn't stay. I would probably stay away from Sundays.
I would say if it's Mother's Day weekend, that's not a great weekend to have it because families are traveling. They go out of town for Mother's Day weekend, maybe to visit their mothers. I'm just saying it's,
It's a special day.
So then that takes it to the 3rd. I mean, Berwyn Heights Day.
Yeah, we can do that instead. Yeah, that's fine.
3rd?
If I recall, there wasn't too much scheduled for Berwyn Heights Day in between like the end of the parade
Yeah,
and then
that's
the
true.
evening events. So I don't think it would be too much of a conflict if we had something at 2 or 3.
So the Greenbelt Cinema anniversary is that afternoon. So maybe, but we could do 1 o'clock. Like, yeah.
Well, why don't we hammer this in instead of hammering it out here? Why don't we just?
But maybe that's plan A, maybe?
3rd, okay. Shania, if you could make a note of that.
And then we can, yeah.
We'll have to discuss with the team availability. And
Right. And so,
you know.
Right. Ms. Pope, did you have an information?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you to everybody for participating, for your thoughts, and thank you once again to staff for all